Patrick Cooch from the Carlton Footy Club. You're listening to the Coaches Panel.
James Walker here from the Brisbane Lions.
Jason Johannesson from the Western Bulldogs.
Luke Parker here from the Sydney Swans.
It's Roy Sloane here from the Adelaide Crows, and you're listening to the Coaches Panel.
Max Orr, Melbourne Football Club.
This is Nat Fyfe from the Fremantle Footy Club, and you're listening to the Coaches Panel.
You've got 6 weeks left in your fantasy footy season, and whether it be you're going for your best rankings ever, a league premiership, or just trying to save face, here at the Coaches Panel we're going to help you with your fantasy football side of Dream Team, SuperCoach, AFL Fantasy, your drafts, single season keeper leagues. We chat about it all here at the Coaches Panel, helping me chat through the big issues of the week and some discussion points as we do want to chat some keeper leagues on this episode. I've got the Fox in. Hello, mate. How are you?
Hello. It's that time again.
Yes, it's the Justin Westhoff podcast, and I look forward to seeing if you have any visions coming up later on in this episode. I've also got Rids on the line. Hello, buddy.
Hey, mate. Lucky last time for the year for me.
Yeah, you're being put out to pasture for injuries for the rest of the year after this one. So nice to have you on for the last time, we think, of 2019. But that being said, before we get to... we're going to have to talk about Stephen Coniglio with, depending on the format you play, anywhere around the 20% marker across all formats. Some more, some a little bit less, but that's a chunk of people that copped a donut on the weekend. I feel horrible for the coaches that captained him. That's just unlucky. It might not have been the greatest call, but it's still unlucky no matter what. I want to talk about that. Some of our Patreons have got some questions in. And if you want to join the Patreon army and support the Coaches Panel, you can do that at patreon.com/Coaches Panel. Before we get to any of that stuff, news out Tuesday morning that St Kilda coach, now former St Kilda coach, Alan Richardson, has called it quits at his time at the club. Whether you believe that's he chose to quit or he was pushed, but given the opportunity to quit, that's totally up to you to speculate. But with now just 6 weeks left in the year, we now have 3 AFL teams that are on the hunt for a brand new league coach. And as we've seen with both North Melbourne and with Carlton over the past couple of weeks and months, there has been a change in players used in certain positions, a change in game style. And so from a fantasy footy perspective, that's an interesting thing for us to ponder as we get into the last 6 weeks. So, Rids, right out of the gate, with Alan Richardson moving on, what are some potential impacts that we might see? It's all speculative, obviously, but what might we see change for St Kilda and the fantasy impact as a flow-on effect of that?
Right, so the first one might be Seb Ross.
Yep. Talk to me in terms of being used more as an in-and-out mid rather than that kind of behind-the-play sort of player?
Well, I think they're going to probably be freed up a little bit. We've seen Carlton become freed up a little bit, North Melbourne. So I reckon St Kilda will become freed up. They'll be released from their, I suppose, if you want to call it a game plan or a game style or whatever the lack of whatever they play at the moment is. But, they'll be freed up. So guys like Seb Ross might be just given a license to go hunt the ball and find some enjoyment in football again.
Well, and you're right. He's certainly had a frustrating year for fantasy footy owners. That's as much about the role he's played, about the structures he's been needed to play in. Well, what about, mate, some guys that haven't quite delivered as well as Seb Ross for us from a fantasy impact this year? Could we see it change some of the players that have been delivering well for us this year, like a Billings and a Marshall? Could it have a negative impact on their scores for the rest of the year? Or have they just been so good for so long, anyone that takes that coaching role throughout the rest of the year would be crazy to move them?
Well, why would you move them? That's the thing. You potentially could probably see someone like a Savage or someone like that being dropped, to give opportunities to younger kids.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Ratton's just got a license to coach for 6 weeks, doesn't he? If it's Ratton, that is. So he's just going to let the kids play. He's going to try and work out who's right and who's wrong. Guys like Young and Parker should be given every opportunity at senior level. I'd tell you one thing, though. If you're looking at someone like a Hunter Clark or a Nick Caulfield, this might be your opportunity in a keeper league to go hunt and grab them.
Well, someone like, I know, Fox, you've talked about Nick Caulfield a few times over the years on the Coaches Panel podcast. As a, under 18s player, he showed he's got plenty of skills and wheels. His debut year, he looked like he's got potential, but just really hasn't got it much in the past year or so as Caulfield.
Yeah, they've sort of been, like Red said, overcoached. They've had no freedom. They haven't had, Caulfield really hasn't had any opportunity. Like in his junior years, he's a mid. He was more of a mid defender type of player. So he needs to get out there and run.
Yeah. And could we see that also impact, well, I got you there, Fox, someone like a Blake Acres, who we've seen probably the start of last year. There was, I think it was a 5 or 6 week period prior to injury where he was opening up 80s and 90s and 100s and showed some real forward, as a forward, some real fantasy potential. This year he's really regressed back. Granted, he didn't really have much of a preseason. Is he someone that could get an opportunity here as well, or is he a bit of a fantasy nomad now that we don't touch?
He could be, and he has showed that in periods previous that he can score very well.
Yes, no doubt he has.
Well, who knows? We don't know. It's a bit speculative.
It's a hypothetical, isn't it?
It's very speculative, but it could quite happen. How's the Saints' injury list?
Look,
they have got 14 on the list. They've been smashed. Like, do you want me to read?
Maybe not all of them, but give us the top line ones that people would care about.
You could almost put a mannequin out there, and you could touch every part of it, and there would be an injury in those 14 players.
No question they've had some massive injury concerns, and they're not all related. They're all different. So, but I wouldn't have thought the reason why Richo's lost his job is because of a really bad injury history this year. Like, Dylan Robertson's terrible. Jake Carlisle was out for large chunks of the year. Dan Hanbury, they quote, were rebuilding his body. Just to name a couple of top liners in terms of names for the club. But I wouldn't have thought.
I don't think the players have played in their correct positions. The ones that have actually got them onto the list, the positions that these guys have played. To come onto that list, they haven't been given that opportunity in this team under Richo. So give them a bit of freedom. Guys like Gresham, the ones that you mentioned earlier, Gresham, Billings, Clark, Caulfield.
Yeah, and you're right, Rids, and it's going to be really fascinating to see what they stand for over these next 6 weeks, because that will have some fantasy impact. Do you think it'll be a bad omen to be taking them on over the past few weeks? Because we've seen at least 2 other clubs. Because Saints have some talent on their list too. I don't think it's there is some list management questions you could probably argue through there in part, Rids. It's probably more so about the game plan, and we've seen sides that adjust their game plan with the senior coach moving on, at least in this year, have had some relative success.
Yeah, but I'd be surprised. St Kilda's got a lot of talent on that list. So I'd be very, very surprised if they don't go out and start hunting and tackling and trying to move the ball quicker. And they've got they've got that team balance that really, really is suited to quick movement of the football and stuff. So I just don't know if there's going to be any impact, like negative or positive for any of the players on a fantasy perspective. And I don't want to come out and bash them either, because they haven't been terrible. Like, there's only been 2 or 3 games they've really, let themselves down. But I just don't know what happens. So whoever the coach is, whether it's Ratton or whoever, radio, should have freedom to allow them just to play and see who can play. So I'd be hesitant bringing a guy in, to be honest, outside of AFL Fantasy.
Yep.
Because I reckon that any injury, any soreness,
wrap them up.
Potentially they can get a rest and they can play someone to see whether they should be on the list or not. But, a pure outsider's point of view, Jonathan Marsh should be playing football ahead of Nathan Brown,
Every day of the week, yes. Bring him in.
So they found a guy in Wilkie, okay? So they found a few guys like Rowan Marshall's really developed well this year. Jack Still's taken the step up.
Mm-hmm.
Gresham has gone more into the midfield. I could argue that he hasn't gone enough into the midfield.
Yeah.
Billings has taken another step as a pure mid this year. Savage has been average to okay across half-back.
Sure.
But it's really those guys, isn't it? Akers, Nunes. Who knows? Dunstan.
Yeah.
Who knows what they're going to do, with whether it's a change of coach or change of game plan. It's just hard to tell.
No, it certainly is the case. Totally agree with you on that John O'Marsh call too. So there you go. There are a couple of plays and a couple of thoughts from some of the members of the panel about the possible impact. And again, it's trying to, predict the future, which is always a dangerous thing to do in fantasy footy. But look, we'll always give you our thoughts. And look, if you're going to go head down the Saint territory, good luck to you. As Riz said, it could be an interesting path to head for the final 6 games of 2019. Over the weekend, like I said right at the top of this episode, probably one of the most frustrating things that can happen to a coach. There's several. Maybe we could do a podcast about that at some point in time, but probably one of the most frustrating things is having a player get injured, and that's just bad luck. Pure and simple bad luck. But when they get injured on a big fat 0, that stings. That's all I can say when stuff like that happens. There's so much luck that is involved in fantasy football, but yeah, that's probably the worst bit of luck. But what that does mean for owners, and again, depending on the format, around about 20% across the formats, give or take a little bit, all have to move him on and go and find... So that's what we're going to do. We're going to help you in Dream Team, in SuperCoach, and in AFL Fantasy. How can you possibly replace Stephen Coniglio? He is out for the remainder of the home and away season. So for drafters, just single season, just throw him back in the pool. Unfortunately, that just stings. A 110 midfielder, you just got to throw him back in the pool. You'll be looking through the names there like I don't know who could be sitting in the pool, like a Harry Mackay you could be looking at, thinking that's exactly how I'm heading down that territory. Or a Zach Clark. Okay, I know I'm picking a midfielder on rucks, but look, you get the point. So here's the deal, is Rids, I'm going to throw you the format of Dream Team. Fox, I'll let you take SuperCoach, I'll take AFL Fantasy. Here's what I want to do. I'm looking for a couple of categories to help people out. I think the first one out of the gate, and I'll start with you, Fox, in a minute, is... just give me who's the best option that I could get. If money's not an obstacle, if I don't care about ownership percentage, it's just who you think could be the best person to go and target for these final 6 weeks. Then the second kind of category of options I want you to look for is you're trying to give me something that's under budget. So I'm going to make some money out of this trade. It's not a trade I want to make, but it's a trade I need to make. So I'm going to try to make, whether it be 50, 100, 30, regardless, you're on a bit of a budget, so you need to scrimp and save. So that, and then the third one is, do give me a unique option. Do give me a point of difference in my side, because someone's going to be trading him for all of those different reasons, to get the best available, to try to make some money elsewhere, to fix up something else, or because they want to get a point of difference. Let's start in SuperCoach. Who have you got for me, Fox?
I still haven't got over it, really.
You're still gutted, are you? So this is a very real dilemma for you.
Yeah, really hit me hard. I watched him run out of the banner, and I saw him come through the banner, and I thought he had half the banner on his knee. And then I had to rewatch. I had to rewatch it to make sure what was on his knee wasn't the banner. It was why did he was taped up that much around that knee? And
look, he was cleared of any medical. The scans came back, and he obviously got through all their fitness testing, rightly or wrongly.
He looked ginger.
He did look ginger,
and I think he was on the ground for 5 minutes before he went. Yeah, well, I think it was a reasonable time.
He was not impacting
for a zero, a fat zero.
Compared to his usual points per minute, it was not what he'd normally done. Let's put it that way.
On a very small sample size, he did not give us anything.
In 5 minutes, he gave you donuts. That is definitely for sure. But look, who's the guy? If money's not an obstacle, if ownership's not an obstacle in SuperCoach, who's the best of the best we could be looking to bring?
We're top of the tree. You've got to go to the top. I'd go a Bulldog.
You go Bulldog?
Yeah,
okay.
They go a McRae or a Dunkley.
Okay, use some DPP through there. DPP,
that's all right. Might be very handy to throw in a Dunkley. Can't go wrong with Dunkley, as we saw on the weekend.
202 in SuperCoach makes hard to argue with.
Absolutely, but yeah, that's the high-picking fruit, Sorry, the low-picking fruit.
Yeah, that's true. No, that's fine. You're telling people the best of the best, and that's what you think he is. That's fine.
I do like Cripps. I do like
Cripper.
the run home.
Yeah, they've got a good run. Yes,
got a very good run home.
Starts this week against the Gold Coast Suns, who he scored nicely in the past 2 against.
Neil's a good option.
Yes, Lockie. Yes,
he's had a few tough games, but I think his run home's reasonable.
Yes.
You want to probably target teams that play Gold Coast.
Okay.
maybe in this decision.
Well, that's true.
So they'd be the top. They'd be the top.
That's
They'd
the
be
top of your
tops.
tree. All right, in Supercoach, if we were on a bit of a budget, trying to make a little bit of money for something else.
This guy's not SuperCoach. Hasn't been SuperCoach relevant.
That's a great way to start a trade from Stephen Coniglio, who's very relevant. But
I think he's good value. Five
Okay.
SuperCoach hundreds in his last 5.
That's a good start. Huh?
Plays a depleted GWS next week, and then has Richmond, Gold Coast, Melbourne, all at the MCG.
Oh, interesting.
Adelaide, Essendon.
Yeah, it's not bad.
That's a pretty good run.
It's a decent run of
And I'm
6
talking
weeks.
Adam Treloar.
Oh, very nice.
He's not really been a SuperCoach stud, but last 3 rounds average 120 SuperCoach points.
He's going okay at the moment, isn't he?
561.
He's
so
averaging
you're gonna
108
have
for the
to
year,
dig
so it's not a
You're
shock.
going to have a little bit in your pocket, to jump to him. You're going to have 21k in your bank.
You know, I just said the whole premise of getting to it was if you are on a budget, with the premise of
Everyone's got that. Everyone's got
no,
that 10.
Fox, not everybody does. Hence we need
All
to
right.
make a bit of money out of
Right.
it too. Is there any
For
options?
15% out there that have got the money, maybe go to him.
Okay, fine.
Now we'll go under that.
That would be great.
I do like we talked about him a little bit earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Jack Steele.
You like the Jack? Okay.
I think like low budget. 447.
Well, you hits
So
the brief.
You've got 93, not 93 extra.
That's
there
enough money to turn Robbie
to
Young into
pocket.
your boy Tom Lynch, mate. Nearly.
We'll talk about Tom Lynch later.
Oh no.
But Jack Steele 0.9%. It's not even 1%.
Yeah, that's as unique as you get.
And they've got the next 3 at Marvel. Dogs, Melbourne and Adelaide. It'd be nice, wouldn't it? And then Freo, Carlton, Sydney. It's not a bad run for Jack Steele.
not a bad
and we know he's a contested beast. He's going to throw a lot of tackles.
Mate, well, maybe the shackles are released from him to ball win too.
He might. Under Ratton's, I reckon Ratton will be a good coach
right.
when he gets the job.
Okay, any other budget picks you want to do before you go giving me a unique option? Are there any other budget buys?
Well, that's budget enough.
Okay,
Especially,
nice.
you wouldn't go Coniglio down to anyone less than Jack Steele, I don't think.
Okay.
Hey, Fox,
Yep.
just
Yep.
for those people that get driven crazy, you don't pronounce the G in Coniglio.
Coniglio.
What?
It's a silent G.
I normally call him the Italian rabbit.
Yeah,
How's
mate.
that?
Yeah, we just have to explain them
Much
what that
better
is.
than what you said just a second ago.
So Coniglio.
Oh, don't. You made it
Coniglio.
worse. I think if you have Coniglio, you might need to see a doctor. That's all you need
What's
to
his
know.
nickname? Cogs.
Yeah, Cogs is fine.
all right, we'll
you know,
stick-
we know who he is that we're trading out. Okay, if we're looking for a guy that is through there, so you've given me your best, you've given me your budget, and is still your unique best buy as well, or is there something else?
Yeah, no, that's unique. Jack Steele.
Okay, that's it. He's your one. I'm throwing stuff around
There's
in here.
one guy I probably wouldn't touch.
Okay, well,
but he's got a good run.
for fair warning, who's that then?
I wouldn't go near him. Zach Merritt.
Oh, okay.
He's had a very gruesome few weeks where he's come up against West Coast, GWS.
Mm-hmm.
I think he got the double tag Sydney tags and North, and he's got quite a good run. Adelaide, Gold Coast again, Port, Dogs, Freo, and Pies. So that's
None of them really tag. Well, Port did for a moment on the weekend, but
no, they're the ones he's got on the way home.
Yeah,
so
no, that's not
it's-
bad.
Yeah, it's
but you wouldn't go there.
I would probably go Jack Steele.
Just 'cause
50k less.
50k less and about 20% less ownership. So I understand.
9%, 9.7. So can we round that off to 10?
Yeah, 10's fine.
Yeah, 10 for Zach Merritt.
All right, there you go. There's a couple of options for you in Supercoach. If you're thinking of you are needing to move Stephen Coniglio on. It's just whether you choose to do it this week or another week. Rids, let's look at the Dream Team format. Who's the best pick of the bunch there for us in that format to go after?
Okay, so the easy, obvious one is Josh Dunkley.
Yeah.
So he's in form. He's playing pure mid. He's just absolutely reveling, and he's in top form. So, we mentioned that a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? So we spoke about him and said he's probably going to be the clear number one forward coming home. And their draw is crazy good.
Oh, yeah.
So if you don't have McRae, maybe jump at a McRae. If you don't have, Dunkley, good opportunity to get him. You're going to have to splash a bit of coin, though, to get him.
Yep.
Because he is top dollar at the moment.
Is it worth? It's a side note question because I think I've got Dunkley too as an option, and I'm meant we all got him there. Is it worth spending the big bucks for what he's doing now?
Well, if you need to eliminate his scoring from your matchups,
Yes.
if you're focused on leagues, you need to do it. Because I don't see him averaging under 120 on that run home with those teams.
Yeah.
So if you don't have him and your opposition does, especially entering finals, you're giving up almost 100 to 120 every week for a forward who's playing as pure a mid as you can get.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm sort of looking at. Again, you did say the obvious. So.
Yeah, no, exactly right, and that's why it's there. It's if money's not an option, ownership's not an option. It's who's the best. You're saying Dunks, and I agree. Who else could be there?
Okay, the best options, I think Tom Rockcliffe must be considered.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not 100% sold, but it's 151 week, 90 the next. There's still a lot of up and downs. We saw Wines hit a bit of form on the weekend, so there's a little bit of here and there. Luke Parker's had a few down weeks, so I wouldn't go anywhere near him at this stage.
Yeah.
Mitch Duncan's probably the other one that stands out.
Yeah, all right. There's some of the best names through there. I'll make sure I use some different names too in AFL Fantasy because you kind of cherry picking a couple of names there, so I'll dodge away from them.
Well, I left you an obvious one.
Well, and I deliberately will try to not touch it then as well. But that's fine. I'll get to them. No problem. Who's some guys that if we're on a bit of a budget where we need to make money, not Fox, if you've got a little bit of budget and you want to spend it, but you need to make some money out of the trade, who are some guys we could be considering in Dream Team?
Okay, so I think Taylor Adams has to be considered now that Pendlebury's out.
Yep.
So if he gets named this week, at 600,000, I think you're mad not to really give him a bit of strength. So he's definitely going to go and play midfield, okay? Because there's no Pendlebury and there's no Beans. So, and Collingwood have not so much lacked it. It's more that they need his defensive midfield pressure in there, around the contest. So I think he's an absolute one to consider as a cheaper option.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ollie Wines looked real good on the weekend.
He did, didn't he?
Well, from a fantasy perspective, he did. So I think he's probably another one to consider if you're looking at a really low. But then, there's a couple of other guys, okay, that are real interesting to me if you're looking for real cheap options.
Mm.
One that jumps out at me massively is Jack Viney.
Yeah.
He has a ceiling about him and he can go on runs. So he's one to really, I wouldn't mind him, being an M9 type setup. So if you could, say, drop Coniglio to Taylor Adams and still be able to get who's around there? Dylan Clark.
Yeah, Clark or whatever.
To have Jack Viney as an M9, that's not a bad ploy, I reckon.
Yeah, it's handy. That's very handy.
So I won't name any more just so you've got a few options there as well.
Well, and of course I'll probably miss them and you can feel free to take them. That's fine. All right, well, who about if you're needing a guy with low ownership to make that point of difference in your side? Using ownership percentages, who's some options we could look through there for a DT?
There is a massive, massive obvious guy here, okay? So this guy is only in 2% of Dream Teams.
Well, that helps.
His last 2 weeks, he's got 124 and 154.
Oh, I know.
So that's Lockie Hunter.
Yeah, it is.
So when you're looking at low percentage, okay, of ownership, you really want a guy with a massive ceiling.
Yeah, you do.
So Lockie Hunter isn't a guy that you want to own for the whole season because he's got 50s and 60s in him, okay? So, but the fact of the matter is, no Caleb Daniel seems to be playing that outside distributor type, role again. It just screams at me. He is as obvious or unique as you can get.
Yeah. It's as good as you get with that. It's pretty rare to get a guy that.
I know that sounds weird, as obvious a unique as you can get, but he is one to really consider. But the other one is obviously Taylor Adams, who's probably got a 0% ownership at this stage. Now, if you want to look at a guy potentially who has come home strong before in past seasons, maybe a Matty Crouch, who's only 15% ownership at the moment in Dream Team.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I'd be going Lockie Hunter.
Yeah, I would be too. And to be honest, that's exactly who I've got as my unique. You mentioned that fact, Rids, that he's coming off that 124 and 154 in AFL Fantasy. He's got a similar sort of ownership, 2.2. What's good about is his fixture for the next 2 weeks, Saints and the Dockers. So again, in terms of opposition, that's relatively friendly right now. So I think from a unique option, he's there. The others that I've got for AFL Fantasy as uniques would be, look, Tay Adams is at less than a percentage ownership. So he's one to talk through there. And then if you just really want to go crazy ownership, it's probably not my number one suggestion because Hunter is, but look, 3 scores over 130 in this bloke's past 6 games, $703,000. Jared Lyons is in a nice little run at the moment. I wouldn't go anywhere near it, just personally. I like some other options, especially given Hunt is about $50,000 cheaper. I would certainly be heading down that track. And Adams is also cheaper than what Lockie is as well. It's Jared is about $80,000 cheaper. But look, if you're looking for low ownership and big ceiling, definitely Lyons is doing that. If you want my budget pick, Rids mentioned his name in there too. But look, if you're making about 50k off this in AFL Fantasy, one of the reasons I like him is he doesn't have bad games, but he's probably not going to win your game either. And that's Matt Crouch. He's only had 1 score all year, sub 90, but he's also only had 1 score 121 or above. So in terms of, he's not that guy like Rids, you've been talking about the importance of ceiling towards the end of the year. Crouch isn't that guy that's going to give you ceiling, but what he is going to give you is, every week you're going to get a 90 to 105 pretty much every week, and you can build around it, I suppose, whether or not that's what you want in your side at the end of the year. I know the Crows do have a good fixture, but Crouch, if you need to replace a 110 midfielder with a guy that's as safe as houses, generally, Crouch is your guy. Some others that are dirt cheap in AFL Fantasy could be Cripps, he's 645, Sidey's 664, Steele, who we've talked about a couple of times, is 644. One I feel dirty for saying, but he's had a couple of decent scores since the new coach has come in, is Mark Murphy. He's under 600,000. I feel dirty for saying that. If you're trying to do it on a budget, he's your guy. But look, the 3 best options, I'm not sure if any of these Rids are the ones you were thinking of, but Dunkley is that one, 30% ownership, 856, the most expensive person in AFL Fantasy at the moment that's playing. But his lowest score in these past 7, is 118. That's his lowest score in 7 weeks. 4 of those scores have been over 120, let alone what he delivered last week for us. He's one. Treloar's been mentioned a few times since round 5. He's only had 1 score, dropping below 100. And after this one against GWS, which is a little bit of a tricky matchup, fair to say, granted their best 2 midfielders are out. After that, he faces the Tigers, the Suns, and the Ds. And in terms of midfielders to score up against, you probably couldn't ask for a better 3 combos to come up against. And maybe then the other one is Andrew Gaff. He hasn't scored below 90 all year. He's got a grand final or final round matchup against the Hawks, who he scored 119 on earlier in the year. He plays the Ds this week, and if you wonder if that's a good matchup, go and check out what some of the Bulldogs midfielders delivered. McRae, Dunkley, Bont's probably the exception, Hunter. He's going to go just fine against those guys. So they're probably the 3 best off the top of the head for me. None of them are really unique. They're all 23% ownership or above. But gosh, they're going to be guys that score well for on the run home. Did I miss any of the obvious ones?
Yes, you missed the biggest one.
Oh, good. It's almost like I did it on purpose.
Well, yeah, I you know what I'm like. I never look at rundowns or plans for these pods. I just talk willy-nilly. So I don't know whether we're going to talk about this guy or not in the next 5 minutes. But with Coniglio out, Josh Kelly out, there's an obvious GWS guy that gets, I don't know, more midfield minutes. Let's throw it that way. And we all know that this guy, when he plays midfield, is the biggest what do you want to call it? DT slut, DT pig, whatever you want to call it, in the game in Toby Green.
That's a big one.
And people might be saying, okay, oh, he's only a forward. Yeah, of course he's only a forward, but you just swing a Dangerfield or someone into the mids, and then you pick up Toby Green. In Dream Team, okay, it's 150 grand sitting in your bank for going Coniglio to Green.
He's around about 420 in SuperCoach, is Toby Green. He's a little more expensive in AFL Fantasy at 581, but still, in all those formats, you making money.
You're making money. And, okay, this guy is likely to go as good as anyone in the comp, like if he plays pure mid. We saw it last week, 144. Like, I mean, I don't think he's been near 140 since, I don't know, Hanbury was actually a premium. So, like, I mean, come on, like, and have a look at their last few games on the run home. So if you're looking at preliminary and grand final matchups for your finals, okay, in leagues, we're talking he has Western Bulldogs followed by Gold Coast in his last two.
Yeah, it's money.
That's pretty friendly.
Yep. You don't get much of it. There's a couple that are good, but that's right up there. You bring an interesting point, Rids, and it's something that comes out as the osmosis question of Stephen Coniglio's omission, is who's the beneficiary of it? We saw Green move into the midfield completely this week. He has been spending a few extra CBAs over the past couple of weeks since coming back from injury. I guess my question to you, because I agree, I think he's probably one of, if not the most obvious bring-ins. Granted, there's still the injury history that you might want to factor in there, but I don't really care about that. But
why try and preempt injury?
Yeah,
exactly. Has played every game this year.
Exactly right.
So
We've done that for years, haven't we?
Yeah, mate.
Well, everyone did it. Devon Smith last year. Everyone did it. Taylor Adams the year before. There's always a guy that works his way through it. So we won't go down that rabbit hole. But rather, was this just Leon Cameron going, okay, my number one midfielder, with Kelly already out, so he's number one available, he's gone, I need a ball winner. I'll just rejuggle. I'll move Lloyd and Hill and others around. I'll move Green in, but next week I won't do that. I'll keep him at that split rotation. Or is Cameron's hands tied where it's like, you know what, we need to win games to even be a chance at top four? I got to get one of my best ball winners into the midfield, and that's Toby Green.
Well, you've got to do what you do, don't you? Like, so at the end of the day, though, it doesn't matter, just as long as Green plays midfield. So he's been talking about Green going into more midfield minutes for how long now? All year he's been talking about it. So why not take that opportunity when it presents? There's another obvious guy that might benefit from this, and he didn't even play last week. He got dropped. Yet the whole fantasy community has won, sooked and carried on and whatever else. And I'm talking about Haitley.
Yeah.
So the fact of the matter is, though, I don't think he's any guarantee to come back in because their number one draft pick from last year could potentially be right to go. So Caldwell might come in.
He's a chance to sneak in, and he's got some wheels about him as well, that kid.
So, I mean, who knows what's going to happen there? And then on top of that, okay, the other guy to really benefit has to be Tim Taranto, doesn't it?
Yep. All the midfield role in the world now for that kid. And look, he's been in the mid all year, don't get it wrong, but he's now their midfield leader. He's their best midfielder in the side, and they, as you've quite nicely mentioned, Riz, they've actually got a nice fixture.
Yeah, they're not too bad. So the other thing they get a benefit from is getting rid of Spud Dawson and actually getting a ruckman in. So God knows why they keep going back to Dawson Simpson. Like, I mean, surely it's time for a Matthew Flynn.
He did his ACL on the weekend, just so you know.
Well, that sucks then. But, I mean, who else is there? There's got to be someone else that can play ruck. So, I mean, if Shane Mumford's injured, surely someone else comes in.
No, mate. There's not a whole heap of rucking that's available down at GWS. Look, in terms of who's listed from a fantasy perspective to roll through there's not much.
They've got Grundy too.
It's Briggs would be the kid.
So maybe it's Lockie Keefe then.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
So why can't he ruck?
Well, you suppose he can.
Tough assignment against Grundy.
Everything's a tough assignment against Grundy.
Yeah, but look, I mean, Dawson Simpson, are we serious?
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, Ivan Soldo smashed him last week, and Soldo's...
Developing.
Yeah.
Developing.
Well, he's a project player. He should be right in about 2025. So, but anyway, those midfielders will benefit when Mumford comes back.
Look, they certainly will benefit from that. All right, there you go. That's some of our thoughts on if you're a Coniglio owner, who you should be considering depending on the needs, and then what could be some potential impacts of Coniglio's departure from the side, at least for the next 6 weeks, but depending on which media outlet you believe. That'll be his last game playing for the club.
Hey, FJ, let's have a bit of a player bash, okay? I can tell you who not to select. How about that?
Here we go. Give me two.
Angus Brayshaw. Oh my God, Melbourne. Bit on you, Goodwin. What the hell is going on with Goodwin? When did Brayshaw become a forward pocket and a half-back flank and a back pocket?
Surely, maybe I choose to believe the best in things too much. Surely he's not 100% fit and right. Clearly there's got to be something wrong with him. You don't be that good of a player 1 year to be someone that barely gets any minutes on the ground, let alone midfield minutes. Surely it's an injury.
He moved the best I've ever seen him move a month ago, and I thought, you beauty, he's going to come home. And then on the weekend, he forgot how to play or something. And Goodwin forgot to use him anywhere. And
they're playing Jordan Lewis in the midfield.
What is going on?
I hope he's in. I hope he's in.
Kane, if you're listening to me, Kane, please message me because I know you love your Melbourne Demons. But, oh my God, you must be frustrated.
Maybe he's had a fallout with Gawn and Gawn doesn't want him anywhere near him.
Well, either that or he slept with Goodwin's daughter or wife or something. I don't know. But what's going on there?
Well, I hope he's just injured. Let's just put it that. Let's just hope it's that.
Do you want another one?
Yeah, give me another one.
Not be getting?
Yeah.
I'm going to throw out an obvious one here. I wouldn't go anywhere near Trent Cotchin.
Yes. Why not?
I love him, but he is no longer fantasy relevant in anything. If you own him in a keeper league, you won't even get a bite for it. So just don't go there.
Sell. That's for sure. Hey, speaking of keeper leagues, you bring up an interesting point. It is for Ultimate Footy coaches. It is an interesting last couple of days, depending on the league formats and settings you play with. If you choose to apply a trade deadline in keeper leagues, for most coaches, it's probably coming up to this week. If not, the weekend following after that is the final weekend you can have a trade deadline. And so what I want to do is I want to look at coaches that are out of contention, because if you're in contention, it's a little bit of a different story. You're starting to look for, bolstering up your squad. You're starting to pick up some guys to give yourself a chance at a premiership. But if you're out of contention, who we're going to speak to, there's two things you're trying to do. One, you're trying to maximize the value of guys on your keeper list squad that won't help you next year, but could help you by moving them on, whether that be getting a talented young kid, or some draft picks or whatever it is. So I want to get both you guys to, in a moment, identify some players that someone that's out of finals contention should be looking to sell, because this is the peak time to sell them, or a second candidate, players to go and target. And it may be one in the other. You might be able to do both. But so guys that you need to look to move on because they hit their peak value spot, and then others that right now are at a basement price or as cheap as you're going to get, or present a great time frame to go and buy. That's what we're looking for. So Fox, for you, who are some guys, if you're out of contention in finals, that you should be targeting right now to bring into your side to benefit you for future seasons? Who have you got for me?
To bring in, I'd be targeting the young guys.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Tim English, he'd be.
He's your number one guy to go after.
Yeah, Tim English, he'd be the.
Okay.
He'd be the top guy.
You love Tim English a little bit too much. Like Westhoff and Sheed would be jealous.
Yeah, plenty to share around. Okay. Charlie Constable. I'm just going for the
No, I like it.
A couple of youth to start with.
Okay.
Guy like Charlie Constable.
Yeah, a little bit out of favour. Can't get in the side, but look, matter of time. Yep.
The young copper, he's good. But someone who's injured that for the rest of the year might be a good pickup.
Okay.
For example, a Jack Martin.
Yes.
He might be something that someone might have on their list that they need to drop him off to get some points on.
I don't know where he's going to get positioned next year. If he's not
he's only a 24-year-old. I don't think we've seen the best.
He's not going to average much, is he?
We haven't seen the best of him.
No,
he's averaging 85.
Yeah, but unless he's a forward, you don't want that.
Yeah, well, what's he at the moment?
Forward?
Isn't it? I thought he was a
He's
DP.
been playing a lot of mid.
Isn't he DPP?
Yeah, I think he'll be a centre only.
Like the year before, he was
defensive forward.
So he moves around a bit.
Yeah, he's done nothing in all those spots.
Yeah, but a new team, mate.
Okay,
there's every chance.
Yes,
there's
all
every
right.
chance.
Yes.
Bombers might throw something at
all right,
him.
I'm throwing shade on your name. All right, Jack Martin's your boy. Okay,
he'd be a guy to buy, but just so guys around that sort of.
Okay, so you've given us some guys to look, kids that haven't yet broken out.
Yeah,
and premiums, quote unquote. Not going to use that name you suggested, but injured premiums in other lines.
Yeah, guys that are out for the rest. Guys that are out for the rest of the year that the teams that are in the finals won't be able to use for finals.
Sure.
So just go through, target them,
and pick them off.
Be getting them.
All right.
Can I throw a couple?
Yes. Before we move to the next category, give us some names that we should be looking to target to bring into our fantasy sides for keeper leagues.
I would be looking at guys in previous years who are a top 10 pick that haven't really performed anywhere near expectations. So I'm talking Andrew Brayshaw.
Mm-hmm. From Freo.
I'm talking Luke Davies Uniacke.
North Melbourne, yeah.
I'm talking Adam Chera.
Freo.
And there is a very, very obvious guy in Callum Mills.
Mm-hmm.
These guys will be superstars at some point in time. If you buy them now, you're going to get them very cheap.
Yep, totally agree. They're rippers. What about Rids? Before we move to guys to trade out, what about someone like a Tom Mitchell? Would you be targeting him? I know the owners probably held him now, for 17 weeks of the year. But as you get to that finals time, is that the chance where you could maybe look at, 100 midfielder and a something else to get you over the line to snag him and try to give someone a flag? Is he someone you'd still be targeting in a keeper league?
Not me.
Okay. Fair enough.
I'd hate to target him.
Why's that? Just out of curiosity?
Well, he broke his leg in 57 spots. We don't know what he's going to do.
No, we don't.
And then on top of that, if Coniglio comes in, you've got a fit O'Meara, you've got a fit Scully, you've got Shields, you've got all these other guys, Warple, and whoever else is going through that midfield. It's going to take another 6 to 12 months for this guy to actually be playing decent football again.
Yeah, normally 12 months for a broken leg to get him back up to full speed.
At least 12 months. So
12 months of footy.
At 18.
Yeah, 12 months of footy, not 12 months since injury.
Yeah, so, I just don't see how he's still top value at the moment. You're better off letting him play next year, get sore a few times, and then try and pick him up cheaper.
Yep.
What about?
I just wouldn't go near it.
What about how do you say it again?
Coniglio.
A Coniglio. What about him? You'd target him?
No, he's top dollar as well. Why would you sell Coniglio?
No, buy.
No, but I'm just saying, why would you sell him though? So the only time you would sell him, is if you can get a superstar back in.
Yeah, for another premium.
So if you've got Coniglio as a finals contender,
then you'd be.
Yeah,
you're giving up something big to get him.
Yeah.
And I just wouldn't do it. There's just no benefit. His value on the market's too high.
Yeah.
Like a guy who I'd be looking at, if you're looking at someone who's got a season-ending injury, is someone like a Dane Beams.
Yeah.
Who potentially can come back and really dominate, or maybe a Jack Stephen. Now, you're going to get these guys at real cheap value.
Yeah, in terms of target, yeah.
Yeah, and you're going to drop 20 points at max, from a Coniglio. Even a Hanbury, this may sound crazy, but even a Hanbury, has got through that point in time where he should have a pre-season, this one. He's going to be cheap.
Yep.
You could potentially be getting 100 mid or 110 mid across the formats for very, very cheap.
No, it's very, very true. And these are some players to target if you're out of finals. Go and get them. We're not talking you're in finals contention. Go and trade these guys in or make the moves out. It's you're out of finals, you're in a keeper league, you're thinking about 2020 and beyond. these are some guys to be looking for. You mentioned his name before. Would an Angus Brayshaw be a buy low target for you now, or are you just like, nah, mate, I got no interest in that dude at all?
Well, I couldn't. Like, I owned him this year in the salary. Oh, my God, that's the worst decision ever to hold him. Like,
mate,
you know what I'm going to do next year? Every time someone tells me to hold someone, I'm just going to trade him.
Just for fun. Just because you can.
Well, I usually do it, and I don't know why I didn't this year. And I've traded everyone else in my team 3 times. So I might... Like, why did I hold the worst performer of the year? Like, as I said, this guy, he's done something to Goodwin or a member of Goodwin's family, because I don't know how you can go from absolute superstar
top 3
to can't play football anymore. Like, it's just such a G. Look, exactly right. He was top 3 in the Brownlow, MJ.
Top 3.
Like, what the hell? And, you know, the worst thing is he's top 3 in the Brownlow of a year that Melbourne made the prelim.
Yep.
Yet now Melbourne's the second worst team in the comp, and he can't get a game in the midfield? You're joking, aren't you?
Yeah, we are.
Maybe he's missing his brothers in Perth.
Oh, I don't know what it is.
No,
We'll move on.
It could be.
It could be. Well, look, if he gets a trade, then maybe things look a little bit different for young Gus. But
the Eagles are Sheed.
well, how do you find a way to bring Sheed into every episode, mate? All right, before we get to some of our Patreon questions for Keeper League coaches, again, you're out of the finals race. Who are some guys you need to look to move them on? Because right now, their value's at top dollar. This is the time, again, whether it be to get some of the names that Rids and Fox you've mentioned just there, whether it be to get some strong draft picks or something else, who are some guys, Fox, that if you owned them and you're out of the finals race, not what you should be getting for them, but you need to look to get rid of them?
Right, one that's fairly obvious, I would have thought, would be Ricky Henderson.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Because Tom Mitchell coming back next year.
Well,
he's going 102.
He's never done anything like that before in his life.
He's South Australian, isn't he?
Former Adelaide Crow, yeah. Delisted free agent.
30-year-old. I don't think he performs that well. You get good value, I think. Especially someone for finals, someone wanting him for their finals.
Yeah.
Now, Angus Brayshaw, probably.
He was on your list?
Yeah, he could be there.
All right.
I got 4 guys.
All right, we'll get to yours in a sec. Fox is
maybe
still...
David Mundy.
Again, you're selling these guys that are not over the hill, but there's limited
30.
time left in their footballing career.
33.
And their positioning, especially for Mundy, allows you to sell them at a higher value than what you would have got at any point.
So I've gone Henderson 30,
yep.
Mundy 33. What about Cade Simpson 30? 35. I don't know.
No one's buying Cade Simpson from you. Maybe if he's a sweetener in the end of the deal. But he's not going to be the centrepiece of a trade.
71. You could probably get better off the waivers.
Aaliyah will give you better numbers.
Yeah, Aaliyah, he'd be good value.
Anybody else?
Maybe a Gary Ablett.
Yeah, okay, yep.
Yeah, he'd be somewhere around
he's
there.
Forward, yep.
What about Travis Boak? That'd be a bit controversial.
Ooh,
He's
like
the
that.
guy.
That would
He's
be
the guy at the top of my list.
That'd be
He's
controversial, though, wouldn't it?
But you're not in finals contention. He's a midfielder only. He's never had a fantasy season like this.
I'd probably do it.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
You'd want something ripper for him, but gosh, can you imagine selling that?
111 average. If you're playing finals, you'd want him.
You'd get something ripper for that.
Yep. I think you'd be able to get Tom English from them.
No.
For that.
And Cade
Constable.
Simpson. Oh my gosh. This is ridiculous. All right, any other names before we throw it from you, Fox?
Probably just the guys maybe that are going to lose DPP.
Okay.
And the older guys.
All right.
Yeah, there's a couple of obvious.
All right, we'll rip through them for us, Rids, before we get to the Patreon questions.
Okay, Tim Kelly's one.
Time to go.
James Warple's another.
And again, before we move to Warple, is it just because, look, as a midfielder only, which Kelly will be next year, regardless of which team he plays at, he's that 95 sort of guy, and you should be able to get them pretty regularly in your draft team anyway?
Yeah, and you're going to maximise your trade value. So you're giving someone 100 forward for, and you can get whatever you want from that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the other guy's obvious as well, rightio. So the other guy's Rowan Marshall.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, though, I'd be a little bit hesitant to sell him, mainly because he's potentially 100 ruck going forward. But the fact of the matter is a change of coach next year, a bigger pre-season.
Potentially Goldie coming in.
Well, whatever happens, and he's not going to be a forward. No. So now I'm going to throw the biggest controversial one. We just said he was going to be the number one player going forward. Would you trade Josh Dunkley if you were out of finals?
Oh, that's a
He's going to be
question.
pure mid next year.
No doubt.
And Bevo is I don't know. He's as predictable as my ex-wife. So does Dunkley keep this same role or not?
Well, the first 6 weeks he didn't even crack a 90 in Ultimate Footy. And then in the last 7 weeks, he hasn't gone under 118.
Imagine him selling him
and we saw it last year too, didn't we?
Same split, yeah.
So, Fox?
Yeah, imagine selling him out early in the year, if you did.
Oh, you'd feel frustrated.
Yeah, but, I mean, you wouldn't do that.
You
Sell
shouldn't do
high,
that.
buy low. Why would you do that?
Because people don't just think strategically in keeper leagues, they think emotionally.
Does Libba
Return, come back.
Yeah, does that?
Well, he was he was doing the scoring when Libba was playing still. It's a smaller sample size of games, but he was doing it still.
Not as much.
No.
He wasn't going 200.
Is Libba best 22 at the moment?
Ooh.
He probably best 21 to 24.
Fox is hedging his bets.
So, I mean, they've won their last two. They're in finals calculation. Why? Dunkley's got 10 votes from the coaches, what was the last couple of weeks or something?
Yeah, he's been
Why
fine.
would you change the mix of the midfield?
I wouldn't.
So Toby McLean's out, so that might impact something, okay? Does Liberatore go forward, or is it a Mitch Wallace that comes in and plays forward?
Oh, Lipinski might play a bit more forward again.
Well, again, so I mean, I'll ask my question again, is Liberatore best 22 currently?
21 to 25.
So for you, Fox, you're saying he's first in, first out for you.
He's getting less relevant.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Look,
but he will.
It's hard to unsettle McRae, Bont, and Dunkley as their big three at the feet of a Tim English.
You'd be
You'd be tough saying that's your primary three midfielders, and unfortunately for Libba, he doesn't have any other skills outside of ball winner, defensive pressure. Those are his two key things: clearances and tackles. That's what he built his game on, and they've kind of got that covered with some versatility elsewhere.
So the other guy is Scott Lycett as well.
Yeah, same sort of theory with Marshall.
Yeah. So, I mean, who knows what happens at Port?
Yeah,
I got no idea. Do you have any idea?
No, I don't know. I'm baffled by what Port do sometimes. That's okay. I've got a name for you, but before we sink the teeth into Port, which I'm always happy to do. What did Jack Zeeble fit this category too?
I don't know. Does he?
I don't know. He's averaging 90 odd across the formats forward. No, he's not the oldest.
He's not one of the top guys.
No, he's not. I'm just saying to move him on. Is he worth moving on?
No, I don't think so, because who knows what a new coach does?
That's true.
And we've already seen Zeeble playing multiple minutes forward again, through games. So
he may still hold it.
So Reece Shaw can play more younger kids through the midfield, like a Jai Simpkin, like a Jed Anderson, just to give opportunity, or I don't know what it is. So who knows?
Yep, all right, fair enough. Well, there's some good names for you though. That is for sure. I would love to see a coach in a keeper league that's a Travis Boak owner. I would, just using him as the first name that you both kind of talked about him. I would love to see someone get aggressive and trade him out. I would love that. You could have
bought Travis Boak for a half-eaten pie at the start of the season.
He was a high 80s averaging forward that you could have bought him pretty easy.
On the decline.
Yeah.
Who lost his captaincy, who was, if he didn't get the midfield rotations like he has, could have easily lost his spot in the team. There was a lot of question marks around him at the start of the year. Obviously, a few key injuries at the start of the year helped him. But the fact of the matter is we've seen, let's say, others dropped who were been best 22 for a long period of time. So who knows? Slide indoors moment, really.
It really could be. That is for sure. All right, let's jump into some of the questions as we wrap up this episode that have come from the great Patreon supporters of the Coaches Panel. If you want to help support the Coaches Panel, you can do that. Not only because there's 6 weeks left of the year, but there is a heap of when we get through the finals of the AFL finals. We'll be dropping our review podcasts of every team. We'll also have articles and trade analysis of every single trade that goes down in the AFL trade period. And then when we start talking draft. So there's plenty of content all year round at patreon.com/coaches panel. Before we wrap up the episode, let's answer some of their questions. And an AFL fantasy question, we'll throw it over to you, Rids, from Louis Fryer. He's given a monster long question, so buckle your seatbelt in. Here he goes. He says, this is for him. Whitfield versus the Pies and probably Maine could likely tag him after shutting down Hearn. Pies have been hard to score against, not really giving up any large scores. That is outside of McRae's big one a few weeks ago. And he feels like that maybe he's just a little bit fragile, Whitfield. So he'd love your thoughts on taking him on with a bona fide ton from a Max Gawn if you traded him out, or a Mitch Duncan who has a great run home. Can we take on Whitfield with other premiums over the next 2 to 3 weeks? Or is Whitfield still as close as you can have to a must-have defender?
Well. There's two trains of thought here. So, is he the best defender on offer this year? Yes. How much does he hurt over the last 6 weeks, though? I don't see him hurting as much except for those last 2 weeks. So there is potential to bring him in later in AFL Fantasy. So we also know he's made a paper. So, yep. I mean, even on the weekend, he got a knock and he was off for a period of time and it slowed his scoring massively. So I would take him on, yeah, for sure, like 100%. And if you've traded out Max Gawn, then bring him back. But again, it all depends on Bruce as well. I don't know what's going on here. So it's in Melbourne's best interest to lose games of football from now on.
It absolutely is. And to, in a very nice way, to experiment, not to throw games, but rather to go, look, we're not going to get anything out of this year except a good draft pick and a nice fixture round where you get into that bottom 6 group. So trial things that might be able to help you out in 2020, because 2019... no one's going to be thumping the door down going, you finished third, you finished second. Like, have a crack, experiment. Don't throw games, but
no one's going to
experiment.
care, MJ, if you use the other T word. So to tank from here is in their best interest.
It absolutely is.
The
100%
lower
is.
they get, the better for them.
Yep, the better draft
Imagine
pick.
if they pick up one of the top 2 drafts. Kids
if they got a Rowell or an Anderson, Anderson's probably the one for them rather than Rowell. They don't need another big inside midfielder, but Anderson for them would be awesome.
Well, Goodwin might play him at back pocket if they get another big inside midfielder. Why not?
He could be nugget. He put Neville Jetta up at centre half forward. It would be awesome.
Well, massive. Like Jordan Lewis continue his midfield rotations, and I mean they might even be able to elevate, say, get Bernie Vince back on the list and put him through the mids.
That's what we want.
Goodwin's just lost the plot, surely.
Jeff White can help out.
You can't
Max.
tell me, are they tanking now?
Oh, I don't think they would be saying that. They're not playing to their fullest potential, surely.
Hey, look, we got no affiliation with Melbourne, do we?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
And we're just random fools that just talk about fantasy.
Sure.
So why not throw that question out there? Why? If I was Simon Goodwin and Max Gawn had an ingrown toenail, okay, I would cut it out and I'd put him in cotton wool for 4 weeks.
Oh. Yeah,
wouldn't you?
Yeah. Maybe there's a reason why we're not coaches, though, but that's all right. I like your thoughts on the Whitfield dilemma. I really like that one. Let's throw a question over you. It's specifically directed to you, Fox, from Johnny Coombs. SuperCoach question.
Dear.
And he just says he wants to know your suggestions for someone to trade for Ryan Burton. Burton's now out for, it's a hamstring, so you'd assume that's a traditional 4 weeks out for Ryan Burton. He's been pretty good
And we
Up until that
suggest,
point?
I think we suggest...
You suggested him last week.
Hang on, we.
You
Collective.
take ownership of your mouthpiece, mate. You said, and he was, a ripping option. 407,000 is where he finds himself at the moment.
So he's lost you 9.5. So we're going to have to go a little bit lower. We have to dig a bit deeper.
In reality, though, Fox, they shouldn't
Fox.
have listened to you. They should have listened to me 5 or 6 weeks ago.
And got all the good
on him
scores.
earlier.
Come on, Johnny Coombs.
Got all the
Lift,
scores.
son.
What are you doing, Johnny?
Come on, mate. I know Johnny's a great guy. All right, mate. If 407's your limit, this is no prep for you, by the way. So you're in Rids territory now. Good luck to you.
Can
Who
I
are
get
you
something
going?
out of the way at first?
Yeah, sure, mate. I'll shut up.
Earlier in the podcast, Rid said he had a season-ending injury. What was that?
Me?
Yeah.
His season-ending.
Ingrown toenail, mate.
Okay.
He's gone Maxi Gorn.
Okay, I can continue.
He's tanking.
All right. There's not a lot down there. I've got 2 options, but I'll run through a few alternatives.
Okay.
What do you call 2 crows? A murder of crows. You could probably have... Which one would murder you most out of Brody, Smith or Malira?
Malira would definitely murder you, but Millera is spending a bit more time in the midfield as the Crows look to inject some speed.
There are a couple of options around that price, just a little bit lower. Well, they're all going to be a bit lower.
Okay.
The St Kilda player, when he's playing well, he's called Savage.
When he's not.
And when he's not, it's Savage.
Yeah. Well, he could get drops according to Rids, so just watch out.
Yeah, I wouldn't go near him, Johnny.
All right, Savage.
The two that we talked earlier about what helps GWS with those injuries, and maybe a Perryman. He might just get an extra kick.
He might get one kick.
He might get, that helps.
Okay.
So he's 365.
Yeah, well,
So
there's
we're
a reason
dropping
why
a bit.
We're heading down to Tom Lynch territory value. Yep.
If you could DPP Tom Lynch through Ryan Burton and somehow get Lynch in, which I don't think it's possible.
Well, maybe you got Darcy Moore.
That'd be the go.
What about Ryan Gardner?
Yes.
Yeah. And the other one, Hunter Clark, maybe 0.5%.
Okay.
How about, can I throw one?
Yes, please. Help Johnny out.
What about Alex Witherden?
I love Alex Witherden.
350,000, nice run home.
Yeah, got an 89 on the weekend. Even actually was up in a couple of centre bounces off the first look. I don't mind that.
Are you going to take ownership of that?
I'll take ownership of it.
Right.
No, I will.
Okay, fine. Would anyone go as...
To Alex Witherden will bank you 50,000 as well.
There you go. Well, you could almost, put... Would anyone trade in Grant Birchall at 200,000?
We're getting lower.
Yeah, well, I'm just giving you options. I'm not saying they're good ones. I'm not taking responsibility for Birchall.
Has he got Griffin Lowe?
Well, he might. We don't have
Or
a side in
Isaac
front of him.
Quainer?
He might.
It's
Yeah,
It's no good playing Logue, though. He's in the waffle.
No, that's right. He's just looking for someone to trade for Burton. I like the Witherden. Who was your pick that you said through there? Perryman's your bloke.
Okay.
All right. Good luck to you, Johnny.
Plenty of options there, Johnny.
What about Heath Shaw at 350?
Yeah, I like Heater. Miller was the one you suggested.
Yeah.
I actually liked that one. Don't mind that one.
Yeah, but you break for the Crows.
Yeah, but when did I ever let that get in the way? I don't own Tex.
Okay.
So we'll never let that get in the way. That's all right. Last question, because most of the questions are around 2 people. Is Toby Green the real deal? We've talked about Tobias. And then what the heck do you do with Stephen Coniglio? That's how you say it, Fox. Just for next year when you've got to get it right when he's a Hawks player. Big Mal in Taz has got our last question for the episode. I'll throw it over to you, Rids. He said, with trades low, so a Dream Team or Supercoach question, I'm guessing, and the uncertainty of bench cover, would there be more upside to picking a DPP option, even if it costs you 8 to 10 points a game with a player? So his example he's given is, instead of trading in a Treloar for Coniglio, is it better to get a DPP such as a Michael Walters?
Yeah.
So the squad depth to you is more important than the on-field points potential?
Look, I mean, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Sure.
So I like to bag points, me personally. But But I also like to have flexibility late. So I'd like to have those DPP options to swing people forward and back. And it depends, like, does he have a Dylan Clark? Does he have a Jackson Hadley? Does he have maybe a Hind or a Bewley sitting in the midfield as well, where if there is an out in the forwards, you can swing, you know. So without seeing the team, I would say yes with 6 weeks to go. I think flexibility goes over the top now. So with only 6 weeks to go, flexibility overwrites the on-field points to a degree, because it only takes one out to be 100 points lost.
Yeah, and look, because he's talking about the number of trades that he has too, that clearly makes it a Dream Team or Supercoach question, which also means the rolling lockout does come into effect as an avenue to consider.
Yeah, but the other thing is everyone's low on trades.
Yeah.
So it's only the guys and girls that have played the long game that wouldn't be. So, you know, everyone should have, 6 weeks to go.
Yep.
So those look at an overall ranking. I'd be very surprised if you have any more than 2 to 4 trades left in the limited format. If you've got any more than that, happy days, you know, you've done well. But I'd be very surprised if you've got any more than that. If you're looking at leagues, potentially you'll have, I'd say, 4 to 6 trades.
And if you've got any more than that...
Well, if you've got any more than that, you're playing it wrong.
Oh,
really.
There you go.
Well, yeah, you are.
I think you do.
Like, if you're playing overall and you've got more than,
6.
say, 3 trades left, okay, and you're sitting at 3,000th rank, you're playing the game wrong.
Yeah, you
should have been banking points earlier than what
5 weeks ago. Yeah.
If you're in contention, or if you were in contention and you have conserved trades, and that means you're now out of contention, you're playing it wrong. You need to try and capitalise. We've been playing this for how long, guys?
A long time.
15, 20, 25 years across all of us. Like, the fact of the matter is, we don't know whether you're going to have a good year or a bad year to year, correct? So much influence has happened. When you're having a good year, you've got to capitalise on it. So,
absolutely.
And you've got to throw all caution in the wind and have a real crack, you know. So, yeah, so Mal's perspective, it really depends who his bench cover is on both of the lines. It's no good having a DPP option if you don't have a decent DPP bench swinger,
to flip it
in
through
the forward line.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Sorry.
Is Walters a preferred DPP?
Well, I think it's just the name he used as illustration.
That's an example.
Yeah, okay. Maybe that's the one he's considering, but it's just the example of a bloke that's a little bit cheaper, but has an arguable comparable ceiling, but can be utilised to flip across positions.
Well, if you were going to choose between Walters and Treloar wins every day.
Of course he does, in a pure points-for-points battle, yeah.
And potentially it could be anywhere up to 30 to 40 points a week.
Yes.
Because Walters' floor is very low at times. So, and on top of that, he's also got suspension history, and so he's an angry little man. So I probably would still go Treloar over a Walters.
Sure.
But if it was a discussion point around, say, Isaac Heaney...
Then it's different.
Then I see it as a much closer discussion.
All right.
They're both similar priced, I think, aren't they? Heaney and...
He's probably
got
it depends on the format he plays, would depend on the variables through there. But
I wouldn't go near Walters either.
You're not touching Sonny?
Touch him with your team.
Oh, jeez. There you go. Get accused of being a Crow supporter and now being wished Michael Walters upon me. All right, thank you. Maybe on that one, we'll call this one a day. Thank you, Fox. As always, a pleasure, mate. Any visions? We keep getting asked. Any visions this week? Nothing.
No.
All right, when they happen, they happen.
I'll let you know.
All right, thank you, mate. You'll wander in here with some swagger if you do. Rids, as always, a pleasure, mate.
Yeah, sorry for rambling on so much, but it was my last episode, I reckon, for the year. So might as well get the money's worth.
Yeah, exactly right. No, we appreciate all the work you've done in 2019, but it looks like a couple of other things are happening in your world at the moment, which mean that recording on the pod might be a little bit more difficult from now till the end of the year. As always, mate, a pleasure. Thank you for your work.
Easy. Have a good one, guys and girls, and best of luck in the finals.
Couldn't say it any better myself. Enjoy your round. I hope your captain Fires does much better than Coniglio. That's how you say it, Fox. And that everything goes your way. Enjoy your round of fantasy footy. And from all of us here at the Coaches Panel, we'll chat to you soon.